we are the rightful stewards of our stories, our histories, our spaces, that we can elevate the spaces that we lived in, struggled on, some of us died on. We can elevate these into our own museums, into our own sanctuaries.
Saludos and welcome to the Rematriating Boriken podcast, where we discuss the journey to the essence of these islands, this archipelago and her surrounding waters, the restoration of our essence before conquest and continued colonialism, the reclamation of our collective healing and liberation. I am Yasmín Hernández, creator of CucubaNación, artist, writer, activist, born and raised in Brooklyn, Rematriating Boriken. Here I go again, posting about a period of time much later. So August got posted, I think it was in September, I hope. And these reflections inspired by September are being posted or recorded. Let's hope it gets posted today on November 1st, day of the new moon in Scorpio. And so here I am, again, claiming my right to my own rhythm, ¿verdad? That I'm not going to be bound by no calendars and clocks. I experience things in real time, and any report or reflections or sharing can happen when they are meant to, and releasing myself from that need to document, share, post in real time allows me to be radically present. Listen, my children make fun of me. My husband makes fun of me because I will take like 80,000 photos of any event, any activity. I am obsessed with documenting. I want to own my own lived experience. I want to tell my own story, and I will always document. But it is more important for me to be present fully at the moment than it is to say, this happened today, I got to post about it today. Eso casi nunca va a pasar en mi vida, because after that event, some other event will come and life will still happen, and behind the scenes needs to be orchestrated and lived and experienced. And so here are September reflections in November.
Lately, I've been finding it a little difficult to post and share, whether on social media, whether a blog post or a podcast about events happening. September is a very charged month, not just because of the anniversary of Hurricanes Irma and Maria, and I'm sure others in there that I'm not aware of. Also, Pedro Albizu Campos' birthday. It's a person so larger than life that historically is recognized with 2 birthdays. Before that, September 10th marked the 25th anniversary of the release of 11 of our Puerto Rican political prisoners and prisoners of war. 25 years of them being out among us. But though an epic anniversary, it was a bittersweet anniversary, because the expectation was that Dircea Pagan would be there among them. And unfortunately, she left this earth in the end of June. A few years back, we also lost Elisam Escobar, who was part of that group of 11. ¿Qué más comparto for September? Grito de Lares. And Grito de Lares, of course, is the same day that Filiberto Ojeda Ríos was assassinated by the FBI in 2005. This Grito de Lares comes with another activity where my friend Damary Burgos and I, after having met in the late 90s in Philadelphia, Taller Puertorriqueño, She is also a painter, and it's our first time collaborating artistically. Afrobody Libertaria is an exhibition that Damary and I have collaborated and are still collaborating on because it's expanding into an ongoing project sponsored by Disnando El País, an initiative to fill as many museums and art spaces in Puerto Rico with art exhibitions that speak to the Afro-Boricua identity and history. And it really is about featuring, at least our project Afrobody Libertaria is speaking to the liberation struggle of Puerto Rico and specifically the role of Afro-Boricuas in it, and also the solidarity that we have had with the greater Black liberation struggle and affirming Puerto Rico's place within the greater global Black liberation struggle. But the project is informed specifically by what we found in the precious library collection, the Filiberto Ojeda Ríos, and how many books he owned about different Black liberation struggles in Africa, in the US, and other parts. And so much of the content is inspired by those books themselves. I will be sharing more about this project in the future, but this is what we opened at La Casa Museo Filiberto Ojeda Ríos on September 23rd, 2024. And what I'm trying to record is actually very symbolic of what I've been experiencing in the past weeks, in the past months, which is this year I've painted the most that I have painted since about, to consider the amount of paintings and the consistent painting that I've done this year. I don't think that I've painted this consistently since I first exhibited at El Museo Fuerte Conde de Mirasol in Vieques in 2009, when I did 30 paintings in the span of about a month because I was a new mom, and that exhibition was postponed because it was set for April, and in April I gave birth. I was nursing at the end of the spring and through the summer. I was nursing a lot longer than that, but I couldn't bring myself out of postpartum, my postpartum was so focused on the baby and on nursing that it was a little difficult to redirect that into painting again. And now I know that painting and birthing and nursing for me all come from the same place. It's all the second chakra. And something that people don't understand about me is that people don't understand that when I'm creating, especially with limited resources, like creating as a mom, creating with two kids who are maybe needing support with school, or, with also aging parents and caretaking in two different directions, and having a space that's not just your studio, but that you're hosting events in and classes in for the community and different responsibilities, then it means that I am working with less energetic resources when I paint today in this age, right? And with all the shit going on in the world, when I am birthing, when I am creating, it requires every aspect of me to focus in intently until it comes through. Big anniversaries like this, big project like these, there's a lot of triumph to be celebrating in there. There's a lot of things to be lifting, and then there's a lot of tragedies to process and try to wrap one's head around. And it becomes very difficult to just uno tirarse a las redes y decir, que estoy haciendo esto, ay, que esta pintura, que estoy trabajando en esto. And there's certain things, projects like these become a ritual, they become ceremony, especially in a place that, although it's called a museum today, was actually the house of this comrade the house where he was assassinated. To sit and have lunch the other day by his front door, knowing that that was the doorstep that he was left to bleed behind. Right? Knowing what that doorstep looked like after that tragic day, September 23rd, 2005. Esto no es un museo cualquiera. Esto no es un espacio anestizado, sterile space, white box to hang art for people to come and schmooze and socialize. This ain't that. So in these times, I create silently and privately. The people who know that I'm doing this project, people who have seen anything, or those who have come through my space, saying what I'm working on. Fuera de eso, I've said very little about this project. I put it up and it's there and it gets seen and appreciated by the people who are the stewards of that land, the stewards of that space, the holders of that legacy, the holders and the protectors of that story. And among them, the comrades themselves in those paintings. Once all that is done, once all that can happen, then I can start thinking about all the other aspects. Like, I made this painting. It's like, yeah, I made a painting. Qué lindo. En mi taller, que ahí en Mayagüez, como no tiene ventana que abren, tiene aire acondicionado y lo hice de un espacio cómodo. Pero las personas que estoy pintando quizás no lo tuvieron de una manera tan bonita. Personas que estuvieron encarceladas, ¿verdad? Personas que fueron asesinadas. Y qué importa a veces que yo pinte esto. Importa documentar, importa marcar esa historia y grabarla en nuestras propias palabras, compartirla para que no sea borrada. Once that process happens, once that blessing is given from the people who hold, the people who are the keepers of these stories and this struggle, then I can open up to, hey, look what I did, or hey, let me share this. Or got people talking about, oh, you got to sell those pieces. I'm not going to say who. Our people, sometimes may have well intentions, but right now, that is the last thing on my mind. When this person that I'm painting lost her children to hunger in Ponce, watched her friends and comrades shot dead en la masacre de Ponce. Yo no estoy aquí pensando on how to fucking commodify this shit. ¿Tú me entiendes? And so we create. I create and then I retreat. I retreat to my space where I hope to get silence and a time to process within the tightrope that is life and the balance between these two opposing forces. Then sometimes social media is at the bottom of my priority list. Sometimes I can't speak about shit and I can't share what I'm doing because the magnitude of what I'm learning and what I'm searching through and trying to kind of to paint something is almost like you're taking this giant experience and you're diminishing it into a two-dimensional surface, and that in and of itself feels sacrilegious. And so then to further diminish it and package it into like a social media post and shit just feels like like it's hard that the Gen X mind and everybody who came before me, I think that we're still trying to figure this out. we're still trying to figure out. I was thinking about comrades and thinking about Coltrane, Chimarenga. They used to call him the field marshal. And I remember being at an event in Calitos Cafe in El Barrio when he walked in, and I remember him coming in, and I just kind of like looked up to the ceiling because that's how tall this brother was. And he hands me this flyer for this event that they would be doing for Filiberto, as he said. Took the darn train up to El Barrio to walk up and down the streets distributing these flyers to the Puerto Rican people. And that wasn't about, but that was after, I guess he was killed. I would have been like in 2006. And then, around that time, a little after, porque salió MySpace, and then Facebook, y ahora a uno salir así de puerta a puerta, organizando, it's like a thing of the past almost. And so sometimes I try to retreat and process and recover and regenerate, just replenish. All this to say that mine won't be those bumping accounts with the daily content. That won't be happening. When I paint in such a flurry, frenzy, I go postpartum and then I don't paint for months again. That's usually my process. And so I might paint like the project I painted and shared in June. I'm barely still starting to share. And I've already moved to another project. And now, before going back to that project from the spring, the portraits from the trench, but haven't really fully sat and shared everything and said, hey, this is what I did. And I painted this person that. But it's not my process. At least it's not my process. I see. It is what it is. The processes between me and those people that I connect with and paint, and cumpliendo en ese proceso, y todo lo demás vendrá cuando tiene que venir. It's heavy stuff, and that's another reason why I retreat, because in these moments of heavy stuff, I'm not one for shooting the shit. I'm not one for like small talk. It needs to be some scheduled deep ass exchanges, and if it can't be that, I'm not interested in these moments. And la queja, people who just, their conversations son queja tras queja tras queja tras queja. Then you're like learning about some of the shit that our people lived through and are still living through. And then you see a post about first day of school in Palestine, in Gaza. So it's all about just kind of retreating and sorting and putting things in their place and finding your center and grounding to this land so you could function and stand straight on it. So Damary finds this book in Filiberto's library collection, Black Nationalism and the Revolution in Music. In the front cover, it is signed and dated September 2nd, 1989. I'm reading this here because the the Casa Museo Filiberto account on Instagram posted it, so it was made public. To our beautiful comrade, friend, and teacher, we celebrate your reunion with our movement and the vanguard in the spirit of the day of outrage against racism in the city of New York and racist killings by police and their henchmen. Your victory in Puerto Rico is a victory for all struggling national liberation movements inside the Western Hemisphere. We sincerely believe that the decades of the 90s will be the decade of the polemic, determining the struggle for national liberation inside the Americas for all colonized nations. As a small representation of the Black liberation movement for national liberation, independence, and socialism, we extend our most sincere love to you, to all your comrades captured, and all the fighting independentistas for the liberation of Puerto Rico. We love you dearly. Teach us, exclamation point, to be better revolutionaries. Straight ahead, freedom or death. Viola, Timaranga, Roger. The December 12th movement. Black nationalism and the revolution in music. I believe that the cover of this book is an image of John Coltrane. Theirs was a space called Sister's Place, a beautiful space in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, which is where I attended these memorial events that they held for Filiberto. And this book is now in Hormigueros as part of Filiberto's library with this beautiful message. This is a meditation on our stories, on our spaces, and how we are the rightful stewards of our stories, our histories, our spaces, that we can elevate the spaces that we lived in, struggled on, some of us died on. We can elevate these into our own museums, into our own sanctuaries. Receive the community, receive people in these sacred spaces of ours, where we tell our own stories, where we preserve our own histories, where we make art that is not commodity, that we make art as ceremony, honoring the sanctity of our stories, of our struggles, of our liberation strategies. September in this archipelago is always a meditation on sovereignty, our pursuit of it, our practice of it, the spaces where it is still missing. September is a meditation on so many revolutionaries whose entire lives were an expression and exercise in sovereignty, and who we can walk in their legacy in our own pursuit of personal, political, and collective sovereignty. To our folks, see September as that time of hurricane commemorations. Pedro Albizu Campos said, "Yo vengo de la tierra, yo vengo del huracán." All the ways that these forces of nature spin us back to ourselves to find how we can transcend survival to thrive in these times and beyond these times. Thank you so much for listening. This is Yasmín Hernández with another episode of the Rematriating Boriken podcast. Usually I post new episodes of this podcast on the new and full moons. Tuve que darme un par de breaks en los meses de agosto y septiembre, which is why these 2 months deserve their own podcast episodes to discuss all that we are holding in these months, all that we may not be able to commit to in these months. So definitely look out on those moon dates, and also in between there might be some surprise episodes popping up. So either way, you will always find information about the project Rematriating Boriken, Rematriating with an M, Boriken, BORIKEN.com, and on the Rematriating Boriken social media pages on Instagram, on Facebook, and on YouTube. You could support and stay more in tune by subscribing to this channel, getting notifications about future posts, and by following here and also on the rematriatingboriken.com website, you can access the podcast and you can also read the blog there, which you can follow as well, or follow us on social media. Thank you so much for supporting. Thank you so much for listening in.